General Motors builds millions of cars each and every single year. From boring hatchbacks to work trucks and even performance cars, GM has their hands in a bit of everything. But they have always operated their entire automotive empire under one cardinal rule, especially when it comes to performance cars. And that rule was, whatever you do, don't make anything faster than the Corvette. General Motors has long even slightly dropped the power ratings on top dog Camaros just so that the Corvette still reigns supreme in the horsepower department on paper. Until 1989. It was this fateful year that a company under the General Motors umbrella, who we all know and love, would release a car that, despite their best efforts, was still seriously faster than the Corvette. And to add insult to injury, it was faster with 2 less cylinders under the hood. But even with its blistering performance, not many people actually know that this GM-built Corvette killer even existed. This is the story of the 1989 Pontiac Turbo Trans Am. Welcome back to another episode of Rare Cars. This is the channel where we dive into the past and explore some of the rarest and most iconic vehicles of all time. If you want to see more short-form documentaries on unique cars like this Turbo Trans Am or other cars like the AMC Gremlin, then make sure to subscribe to the Rare Cars YouTube channel and smash that notification bell for our weekly uploads. But now, let's dive into the history of the car that GM wishes they never made, the 1989 Turbo Trans Am. This iconic Trans Am was built on the 3rd Gen Firebird and Camaro chassis, which is as quintessentially 80s as you could get. They were angular, had pop-up headlights standard, and they had some notoriously plasticky interiors, as most 80s American cars did. But it was undeniable that the 3rd Gen Firebirds looked absolutely great going down the road, especially the Trans Am models with that glorious and iconic flaming chicken draped across the hood. In 1989, it was decided that Pontiac would be able to build an official pace car to represent itself for the Indianapolis 500, which was a big deal for any automaker. Pontiac gladly accepted the honor and went to work thinking about how they could make their iconic Firebird truly worthy of the Indy 500 pace car position. Typically, these special pace cars are really just an exterior package on a decently spec'd production car like an SS Camaro or something similar. Pontiac, though, in their natural fashion, wanted to do things a bit outside the box with their pace car. Being a General Motors company, Pontiac did have access to the network of other companies that fell under the GM umbrella, which included Buick. And Buick in the mid-1980s was setting the world on fire with their 3.8-liter turbocharged V6 that was in the Buick GNX. This was the first time an American automaker truly got turbocharging right from the factory, and the results were seriously impressive. These Buicks were the fastest new cars on the street in 1987, and Pontiac knew if they wanted to make their Indy pace car special, that this Buick engine would have to be transplanted into their sleek 3rd Gen Trans Am. There was just one problem. It wouldn't quite fit. The boxy G-body platform in which the GNX was based on had no issue when it came to clearance. But the sloping hood of the Trans Am and its narrower shock towers meant that the GNX-spec'd 3.8-liter turbo V6 would not fit in the Trans Am. As a result, Pontiac needed to change out the heads on the 3.8-liter V6 from the older style ones to the newer style heads from the 3800 V6, which was introduced in 1988. The 3800 moniker was given to the new and updated next-gen version of the Buick 3.8 that now featured a more form-factor head design so it could be fitted to front-wheel drive cars. This conveniently allowed the 3.8-liter to fit in the Trans Am longitudinally as well, which solved Pontiac's clearance problem. With the 3.8-liter now effectively mounted into the Trans Am, with a better set of heads on it, it was time for that turbocharger to really work its magic. All these Turbo Trans Am pace cars were outfitted with an Air Research T3 turbocharger and an intercooler to help maximize the power output. This iteration of the 3.8-liter V6 could run a ton of boost. 16.5 pounds to be exact, which is a serious amount of air to be squeezing back into that engine. In stock form, these Turbo Trans Ams were rated at a very conservative 245 horsepower and 340 foot-pounds of torque on paper, and 245 horsepower was conveniently the exact same as the top trim Corvette. However, we would soon find out that this horsepower number in the Trans Am application was a straight-up lie. These Turbo Trans Ams routinely made 300 horsepower bone stock off the showroom floor. And couple that serious power with the fact that these turbo cars utilized an electronic control unit which people were beginning to figure out how to tune, and you had a recipe for a wicked fast street car. In stock form, Car and Driver was able to run the Turbo Trans Am and do a 4.6 second 0 to 60 with it, while also running mid to high 13-second quarter miles. If you were to add a tune and some supporting mods to these Turbo Trans Ams, then for not much money over sticker, you would have an easily mid to high 12-second car. All the Turbo Trans Ams were fitted with a 4-speed 200-4R automatic transmission, as GM's manual transmissions at the time simply could not handle the power and torque that these turbo 3.8-liter V6s made. But even with the somewhat lame automatic transmission, the gearing in the Trans was so long, in fact, that on the top end, Motor Trend was able to run their Turbo Trans Am test car up to a blistering 160 miles per hour. But being an Indianapolis 500 pace car, these Turbo TAs couldn't just be another straight-line brawler that couldn't turn. It had to be able to handle, and oh boy it did. The Turbo Trans Ams got the works when it came to the suspension department, including the full WS6 handling package, which came with better shocks, better springs, a full 4-wheel disc brake setup that featured 2 piston calipers and 12-inch rotors in the front, with 11.7-inch discs in the rear. The Turbo Trans Ams, in fact, handled in a lot of ways better than its V8 counterparts did, because there were now 2 less cylinders hanging over the front wheels, which gave these cars better balance. But even with the better handling balance, they were still a bit tricky to wrangle in the turns because of the way that power delivery worked with the Turbo 6. All of the 305 and 350 cubic inch V8 Firebirds had a very predictable and linear power band. The Turbo V6, on the other hand, was more like an on-off switch. If you floored it in the Turbo TA, once it kicked down a gear and hit that 2500 RPM mark, acceleration ramped up drastically, which meant that you had to be careful when burying the throttle so you didn't blow the tires off midway through a corner. It had to be a weird sensation at the time to mash the gas in a Trans Am, and instead of hearing a barking V8 bellowing off the walls around you, you heard a swoosh of a turbocharger. But nonetheless, I doubt many people cared once they saw just how fast that speedo climbed. The true tragedy of the Turbo Trans Am wasn't the fact that GM accidentally built a car that was faster than the Corvette, though. It was the fact that Pontiac only built this car for a single model year, 1989. This was the only year where you could get the exceptional Buick Turbo 6 in the Trans Am, which, as far as I'm concerned, was the ultimate combo that GM offered at the time. You got their best performance engine with a chassis that far exceeded the capabilities of the Buick GNX, all for about $31,000. Being a 1-year production run only, Pontiac only built about 1,550 Turbo Trans Ams. But here's the funny part. The Trans Ams are basically just as fast in a straight line as the Buick GNX. But they also handled better, and they could reach a much higher top speed thanks to their improved aerodynamics. But because 1,500 Turbo Trans Ams were made, and only 547 Buick GNXs were made, the Turbo Trans Ams are way cheaper to purchase today. Low-mileage Buick GNXs routinely trade hands for over $100,000, while similar condition Turbo Trans Ams go for $50,000 to $60,000, which makes them quite a bargain in comparison. And comment down below on this video because I would love to know, which one would you rather have if money was no object? The Turbo Trans Am or the Buick GNX? I personally would rather have the Turbo Trans Am. Thank you all for watching episode number 30 of our Rare Cars documentary series. I just want to take a quick moment to thank everybody for tuning in to these videos week after week after week. The support has been tremendous and I never thought this channel would grow so fast. And it would not be possible without all of you. So from the bottom of my heart, I would like to say thank you for watching the videos, and I really hope you stick around to see what we got cooking up in the future. And if you're new to the channel, please make sure that you are subscribed to the Rare Cars YouTube channel and smash that notification bell for more documentary-style videos just like this on the world's most interesting cars. Until next time, enthusiasts.